It is a series win. And I talked about this on Friday night, did a short little bonus episode on Friday night after that game because Max Fried was just so good. I had to jump on and talk about it. Grant wasn't available for us to do the postcast, so I just wanted to jump on there and talk about it because Max Fried, he's been excellent. He really has. You look at the season, it's a 3.35 ERA, and I know he's had some ups and downs this year, but he's been really, really good once again. And it's just crazy to see with Max Fried. You look at his 2024 season, and again, he had the rough start at the beginning of the year. He had a couple of rough starts after coming back off the injured list after the All-Star break. But it's a 3.35 whip, or sorry, a 3.35 ERA, a 1.19 whip, and 147 and 2/3 innings. So he's going to surpass 150 innings, which look, in this game, that's pretty reliable. And I think Max Fried, he takes a bit of criticism, and maybe rightfully so, the fact that he always seems to at least go on the injured list once a year. And it's not always long, but you look at it, and I mean, he's going to have another 150 innings pitched this season. Certainly, you would love to see that closer to 170, 180 on a consistent basis. But I will take 150 innings of a guy that's going to give you a low 3 ERA and a whip under 1.2. And that 3.35 ERA and that 1.19 whip, that would be his worst totals since 2019. I just truly think we take Max Fried for granted as Braves fans. And I know there's a lot of Braves fans out there that love Max Fried and certainly want him back. And we'll get into all that once we get into the offseason, which hopefully is not as close as everyone thinks it is. But I just wanted to pause for a moment and talk about it a little bit more. Again, I know I discussed it on Friday's bonus episode, but this would be his worst season statistically since 2019. And it's still really, really good numbers. Again, a 3.35 ERA and a 1.19 whip. And he still has time to improve on that. Max Fried's really good. I think he's going to get paid a lot of money, but it might not be the length of years just because of his track record and of his injury history and that we've seen. And again, it's not always something that keeps him out for an entire season or usually not even big stretches of seasons like we saw last year, but he does seem to go on the injured list for once or twice a season, whether it's for blisters or just a minor thing here or there that kind of keeps him from being that workhorse 180, 190 inning type of pitcher. But when he's out there and he's healthy, he is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And he showed that again on Friday night. Spencer Schwellenbach, he looked as bad as he's looked all year long. And anytime you see that for Spencer Schwellenbach right now, you have to immediately start to think, okay, is he finally wearing down? Is he finally getting tired? Which is fair to say for a guy who only had 65 professional innings coming into the season. And the stuff, there's no question of the stuff. And there's no question of whether or not Spencer Schwellenbach is going to be a really good pitcher for a long time. But you look at the misses that he had on Saturday, and they were all just middle. And he talked about after the game, he'd rather miss in the zone than out of the zone. Not in 2-strike counts, which is what we saw in some of that game on Saturday. I don't necessarily believe in that. Yeah, you'd rather have a pitcher that is having issues throwing few too many strikes than few too many balls. But a lot of those times it was 2-strike counts and he was just leaving pitches over the middle of the plate, which again, I think just because of where he is in the season and not being a starting pitcher and all that we've been over several times, is this a kid that is finally wearing down? I don't think it's a situation of the league necessarily catching up to him, although I think that will come. You saw it, I think, with the Phillies. You could make that argument a little bit more. The fact that he pitched well in that game, but didn't have a ton of strikeouts. The Phillies saw him for the third time this year. At some point, you see a guy that much, you're going to start to figure him out a little bit. But I don't think it's so much of that as perhaps maybe he's just finally getting tired a little bit and it's starting to miss. And with him, when he's missing, instead of bouncing balls in the dirt or throwing them 10 feet outside, they're going right down the middle. And again, just a lot of those hits that he gave up on Saturday were pitches right over the middle. And he still went 5 innings and only allowed 3 earned runs. He gets a little bit of defensive help behind him, and it's maybe not that bad of a line. But either way, if you watch the game, he clearly was not locating as well as we're used to seeing for Spencer Schwellenbach and got hit around pretty good. So one of his worst starts of the year. But then Chris Sale follows it up on Sunday with just another brilliant start. Again, another feather in his cap as he builds on his Cy Young resume and exactly what the Braves needed to win a series, to give them a chance to win. I know he ultimately didn't get the win, but certainly did what all he could, going 6 scoreless innings in this one. I was glad I get to see a Chris Sale game. I don't get to go to a lot of Braves games, so to go to one and Chris Sale being able to pitch in it, it was really fun just to watch him work and be able to, locate that slider when he needed to in big spots. You even saw him late in the game get up 96, 97. I was watching the radar gun early in that one, and I saw some 90s in there and had me a little nervous, but we've seen it really the past couple of starts now. He's been able to reach back and get 95, 96, 97 when he needs it. Look, the Braves have asked a lot of their pitchers this year, especially their starting pitchers, with Reynaldo Lopez, who's going from a reliever back to a starter, for Chris Sale, that hasn't thrown a lot of innings over the last 4 years, and Spencer Schwellenbach, who hasn't thrown a lot of innings in his life, period. So the Braves have asked a lot of their starters this year. It is okay to wonder and be cautious and nervous about some of these guys losing some steam and losing some gas here at the end. But it's good to see, these guys still come out there and compete the way that they have. Lopez has looked as good as he's looked all season. Max Fried, just talked about him, and Sale throwing another scoreless outing against Schwellenbach, the only one. And the Braves starting pitching was due to have a little bit of a hiccup. And again, in the end, it was 5 innings of 3 earned runs. If you get some better defense, maybe it's not even as bad as that. And, talking about the defense a little bit more, an error from Arcia. Look, it was a wet night on the field. I give him a little bit of break, but there's a couple of times in that inning that you could have made a play to help Fried get out of that inning. It allows an unearned run for Max Fried. Couple of tough plays, like I mentioned, for Schwellenbach that weren't made on Saturday that maybe help him out and limit the damage a little bit more. And then in the game on Sunday, too, Gio Urshela, who's been great over there at third base, he lets the ball get by him, goes for a double, and the Blue Jays ultimately score the tying and winning run late in that game. And an error leads to 2 runs in that inning. Should have been out of there without giving up anything. So defense was a little questionable over the weekend. Defense that has been so great. And when you are a team that its winning formula is pitching and defense, you got to have both of those going. They have to work together in order for this Braves team to win. They still won the series despite the defense being down a little bit and despite the offense just playing unwatchable at times. We're going to talk about that later this week. Who are you tuning in to watch? I asked that question from social media over the weekend. Just wanted to hear your responses. And I say that not to say that this team isn't completely unwatchable. I don't believe that. Obviously, I tune in every game. But it's just coming into the season, you could have said this was one of the more exciting, most watchable teams, not just for Braves fans, but I think baseball fans everywhere were tuning in to watch the Braves play. And now you tune it on, especially for the offense. And who are you watching? Who are you getting excited about when they come to the plate? Not many names that come to mind. Certainly the pitching staff is a lot of fun to watch, and that's what a lot of the responses have been so far. But let me know your thoughts, because again, I want to dive deeper into that later in the week, and also get into what I saw when I was at the game, because it's just, I think we take Max Fried for granted. I think we take for granted what this offense has lost and what this team has been able to do without those guys, because the Braves have lost some massive players this year, and you all know that. But I don't think we've given this team enough credit for just the people that they've lost, for the time that they've lost them. But let me know, this is the question for you right now. Who are you tuning in to watch? When you're turning on a Braves game every night, who are you excited to see when they come to the plate or when they come to the mound, most likely? Because again, that's what's been most exciting to watch this season is the Braves pitching staff. But who are you watching when you turn on a Braves game? Who gets you excited to watch Braves baseball each and every night? Let me know that down in the comment section below. Again, we'll talk about that later in the week.